top 10 rankings for the college football playoffs. The initial CFP rankings, they will be dropped on Tuesday. I'm very interested to see what this top 7 looks like from the committee. Today I'm going to be dishing out what I think the rankings will look like. Kind of like a mix between what the committee will do and what I think currently holds. These aren't by any means easy to make. A lot of teams lack an abundance of quality wins. The month of November, though, there's plenty of teams have opportunities to build a resume. So nothing to really overreact to at this moment in time. At number 10, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, they sit at 7-1. The Cowboys' only loss was on the road to Iowa State. They led late in that game, 7-point underdogs. Spencer Sanders, that was probably his best game of the year. Oklahoma State, they field a tough, feisty defense. They lead the Big 12 in scoring. They get plenty of help from their defensive line. Colin Oliver coming off the edge, Tyler Lacey, Malcolm Rodriguez at linebackers. This is a really good front seven. They're really good at slowing down the run. Jim Knowles, he calls a very good defense. The Pokes, they struggled though early in the year to beat Missouri State, Tulsa, Boise, all by one score. They've turned it on as of late though. They beat Texas, a really good Baylor team in Stillwater. Oklahoma State, they have a strong running game. There's Jalen Warren. He's become one of the top runners in the nation. Tay Martin. He's also helped boost a rather inconsistent but capable passing game. Oklahoma State, they do host OU at season's end. But yeah, Spencer Sanders, he's been very inconsistent this season. You look at Baylor, he had 3 picks. You look at Iowa State game where he had some of his best throws on the year. They were unable to seal that one up late on the road in Ames. This is a really good football team. I think the win over Baylor is a good one too. Baylor, they sit at 1 loss themselves. How will Spencer Sanders play down the stretch? That's really going to be the tell-all for this football team. I think they can definitely make the playoffs, especially with Oklahoma right now. If OU is undefeated at year's end and they beat them, they could really work themselves into playoff contention. Likely, if the only way they're going to get in is if they go undefeated the rest of the way. If they beat an undefeated OU, they'd likely rematch them in the title game, so they could beat them twice. That'd be instrumental for their playoff hopes. Right now, Oklahoma State at number 10. Then at number 9, Notre Dame. The Irish, they've been kind of written off due to a stagnant start to the year. They had those close wins against Florida State, Toledo, Purdue. And although the Irish CFP hopes, they're done. They're a top team at this moment in time. ND's played much better week-to-week basis up front. It's allowed their running game to get going with Kyron Williams. Chris Tyree's been a little beat up, but Williams is taking it full of serve. They're starting to really do their part. It's allowing Jack Cohen he started off the year really hot and struggled a bit middle of the year, but right now they have some really good balance going for the Irish. They have a bit of an inconsistent defense, but they hold wins over name brands, USC, UNC, Virginia Tech, a blowout over Wisconsin due to a strong fourth quarter by its defense. Those teams don't exactly stick out record-wise, but they are tough opponents, I would say. This team, I think they're going to find their way to a New Year's Six Bowl. Isaiah Foskey, he's been elite off the edge for them. J.D. Bertan stepping up at linebacker. They've been really slowing down the run phenomenally this year, Notre Dame has. Even against Cincinnati, they really had them bottled up. That's their only loss this year, is at home to a Bearcats team that's number 2 in the AP poll. It's a really good football team they lost to. Overall, Notre Dame getting better week to week. They don't have a phenomenal schedule to end the year. I think I got Georgia Tech in there. There's a Stanford. They don't have a great schedule to end the year. Their playoff hopes are pretty much done, but they should make their way into a New Year's Six Bowl. Kyle Hamilton, I'm not sure what his status is. Ugly-looking knee injury in that USC game, so he didn't play against North Carolina. But overall, when he's on the field, he's the nation's best safety. Really good defense. I think Notre Dame's in for another great year. Number 8, the Wolverines. They've been pretty impressive in their 7-1 start. Their lone loss came at East Lansing on Saturday. And, they led by 16 in the third quarter. Michigan, they sport one of the nation's top running games, led by the duo of Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. Also, one of the nation's top offensive line units in college football, led by Andrew Vastardis. Cade McNamara in this passing game, they've really been taking shape this year, despite the lack of size. And I guess depth isn't great at receiver in terms of experience. You see Andrew Anthony really stepped up in the MSU game with their leader Ronnie Bell out for the year with that torn ACL. Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, Eric All. They've got guys stepping up. I really like this passing game. Offense is going to be one that's fun to watch the remainder of the season. The Wolverines get Ohio State and Penn State in November, so they can build their resume. The loss to Michigan State hurts. Not a bad one. Certainly a step back because, they really don't have a lot of quality wins right now. Maybe they kind of struggled against Rutgers. They looked really good on the road against Wisconsin, one of the nation's best defense of units. They looked really good in that game, but in terms of quality wins, they don't really have it. They'll have their opportunity. I mentioned that at the beginning of the show. There's a handful of teams on here that have opportunities, and Michigan is one of them. Number 7, the Buckeyes. I know people are probably going to be upset with this one, but hear me out. The same scenario applies to Ohio State. If they win out, they're going to be in the playoffs. Right now, why should Ohio State be awarded a top 6 ranking, though? The Buckeyes lost to Oregon. That's most certainly better than beating an FCS opponent by 50, so that's a plus for sure. But they lack quality wins in my eyes. I don't really see anything really stands out. They just beat Penn State in a hard-fought outing, and I'll give them respect for that because that's a good football team when they play to their level, regardless of what happened against Illinois. They just didn't play good football that day, and this is a really good football team when they play what they're capable to. Outside of that, though, where's the quality wins? Minnesota, maybe. They smoked Rutgers. That's a notable win, I'd say. That's a team that's playing much better, especially on defense. They went to Bloomington and blew out Indiana. It's not easy to win there. You've seen Michigan State struggled. Cincinnati did, too. So it's obviously a tough team to play, regardless of their 2-6 record. The Shoes, though, they will have their opportunity because they have this top-scoring offense in college football. Their defense is it's getting better in small strides, for sure. The defensive line, I think, looked really good against Penn State. Zach Harrison, Tyree Smith. These guys are pretty good and very stout up front. I love what they have. They're pretty deep on the D-line. Haskell Garrett. Ronnie Hickman in the back end's playing very well. Denzel Burke as well. So Ohio State, they'll have their opportunities for Buckeye fans. Don't freak out. But right now, I just don't see them being anywhere higher than this. If you win out, you'll be in the playoffs, no doubt. At number 6, the Sooners, they are 9-0, but they've the way they've done it needs to be addressed. The Sooners have won 5 games by 1 score, and that doesn't include trailing deep in the third quarter to Kansas, a game they won by 2 scores. They trailed in that game the entirety of it. Oklahoma's best win was in Dallas over Texas, but Texas, they've lost 3 straight now. It's really not that strong of a resume builder anymore. And they trailed by 20+ in that game, dominated in the first half. They were just getting blowed out until Caleb Williams came in and pulled off some heroics. Oklahoma, they themselves will have opportunities to make a playoff spot. They have a daunting November stretch: Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. They're going to have plenty of chances. So, again, if you're a Buckeye or Sooner fan, don't freak out. You'll definitely have your chances here. But right now, how are they higher than 6? I just don't see it. They're going to have a chance to earn it. But right now, I don't see them worthy of it. Their defense isn't their secondary is really struggling, which we knew that'd be a big point of their defense to focus on coming into the year. The defensive line, I'd like to see them get more out of them because this is the best defensive line I think Lincoln Riley's ever had in his times at OU. Nick Bonito coming off the edge, Perrion Winfrey, Isaiah Thomas, Nick Coe. These guys are loaded on the defensive front. I'd like to see them do a little bit better job of slowing down the run because they're not doing it at an elite pace right now. So, Oklahoma, 6 for now. Number 5, Cincinnati. The Bearcats, they might not get the respect they should. And considering the way they've played the past 2 weeks, it would be for good reason. The Bearcats have been playing elite defense, though. Sits second in FBS in points per game allowed. They beat Indiana and Notre Dame on the road in convincing fashion. They took care of business there. Only problem for Cincy is the conference they play in as a group of 5. They got to play the same way against the AAC. Outside of those past 2 weeks, Cincy this year has been winning with ease, but the last 2 games, Navy and Tulane, they've not taken care of business. That's a big deal. When you're a group of 5 team trying to make the playoffs, no, a win is not just a win. Like a lot of people like to keep saying, that's not going to apply here for Cincinnati. They need to be taking care of business in conference, and they need to do it convincingly. I know they have SMU on the schedule in the month of November, likely a date with Houston in the title game. So if those guys keep winning games, those will be some quality wins. Right now, though, Cincinnati, they've played them way out of the top 4 in my eyes with how they've played against Navy and Tulane. Desmond Ridder playing great ball. Jerome Ford, I think he leads the nation in touchdowns. Kenneth Walker probably does now, but he's top 3, I'm pretty sure, in rushing touchdowns this year. This offense has got some great balance. And their defense, you got Mijah Sanders coming off the edge, Darian Beavers at linebacker, Malik Van at defensive line as well, Curtis Brooks. They have a really nice unit, playmaking secondary led by Ahmad Gardner, Javon Hicks, Kobe Bryant. This is a really good defense for Cincinnati. I'd love to see them make the playoffs. But right now, how they've played the last 2 weeks, I just can't see or justify a reason why they'd be in the top 4. Other than that Notre Dame win, that really does hold a lot of weight. That could really do big things for them, so I'm very interested to see what the committee does with Cincinnati. Number 4, Michigan State. The Spartans sit at 8-0 when it comes to with plenty of resilience. MSU have overcome only 5 total yards in the second half to beat Nebraska at home in overtime. Needed a strong defensive effort to overcome the Hoosiers on the road there in Bloomington. A day where the offense was held to under 250 yards. Quality wins aren't exactly easy to find at first glance for Michigan State. But if you break it down, they have wins that I do think stand out. MSU put on an offensive clinic against a tough Rutgers defense, as did Ohio State. Rutgers, they only lost to Michigan by 1 score. So, we'll look at that. I think that carries a little bit of weight. They went on the road and beat Miami due to an impressive second half. I think that's going to have some water in it as well. Miami, of course, what are they, 4-4? They're not having a great year, but, going on the road, playing an out-of-conference opponent, it means more than, hosting an FCS school and blowing them out. The committee has shown that before. So, and of course, the Saturday's comeback win over Michigan, very impressive victory. Michigan State this year, and they've not been able to run the ball, though, despite the playmakers they have and a young, hot quarterback in Peyton Thorne. They've not really been great on offense. The Nebraska and Indiana games show that. They were able to really get the run game going against Michigan with a lot of big plays by Kenneth Walker, 200-plus total yards, 5 scores. Peyton Thorne still didn't play all that well, but this team really stepped up. They were down 16 in the third quarter, came back against a good football team. So the Spartans right now, why not put them at 4? I think this is a really good football team. Jacob Pasnook, Xavier Henderson, they got playmakers to stand out. Their secondary as a whole this year, again, they have a lot of experienced players in terms of their age and whatnot, but they don't have a lot of experience on the football field. A handful of transfers from the SEC. Quavarius Crouch, one of those at linebacker, he's played very well. But in the secondary, they're not getting great playmaking. They really can't cover a lot of people. They're like probably 125th now after the Michigan game in pass defense. So it's obviously a big area of concern. Resilient football team that sits at 8-0, though. Number 3, the Oregon Ducks. Yes, I have the Ducks at number 3. They've been a little bit stagnant in conference play, but the win at UCLA wasn't as close as the final score indicates. The Bruins made a late rally due to some Oregon missteps, so they weren't able to close out in Los Angeles. But Oregon was really good in that game for the most part. I think Oregon, though, most importantly, they hold strong wins over non-conference foes in Fresno and Ohio State. They beat those guys in weeks 1 and 2, of course, but that's going to stick with you all year long. The Ducks, the lone loss, came on the road in overtime to Stanford. The Cardinals, if you remember, they scored on a poorly officiated final drive. Joe Moorhead was also absent for that game. The committee will take note of that, the Moorhead absence, that is. Of course, it happened, the officiating. Don't ever put yourself in a position to have the officials determine the game. But I think it should be noted. But that's a loss for them. I don't think it's a terrible loss. I don't think it knocks them out by any means. Oregon, though, they deserve to be respected. I currently have them in the top 4. They have a nice balanced attack. Kayvon Thibodeau off the edge. He's back to being healthy. This is a really good defense. They haven't always showed it at times, especially in the secondary. They haven't been making plays like as we're accustomed to seeing, really. They have a lot of playmakers, though, so it's kind of shocking. Verone McKinley, Michael Wright, Jamal Hill. I'd like to see him play better, but this is overall a very good football team. The offensive line's been really growing. Very deep receiver, Anthony Brown. He's progressing week to week. That's really the only concern. But right now, Oregon, this is a really complete football team. Number 2, Alabama. I'm not fully convinced the Tide should be given the number 2 ranking at this moment in time. Ole Miss, though, is a very quality win. They lost as big favorites to Texas A&M on the road. The defense looked sluggish in that game. And against Florida and Tennessee, strong fourth quarter against the Vols allowed them to distance themselves. Florida ran it all over them. Tennessee had a lot of success through the year. Defensive positioning has been a problem for Alabama. You've seen it against Florida. Henry Tioto out of position. The defensive line not getting great penetration. Against Tennessee, one of the safeties got beat. Josh Jobe also got beat. And man, the safety, I wouldn't say he got beat. He was just not where he was supposed to be. They had some miscommunication there. So positioning's really been a problem for them. They'll figure it out, though. They have a really talented defense. I'd like to see them play better against the run, though. I figure this would be a great year for the Tide on defense. It's kind of a bend in the middle, especially with all the talent they have. Will Anderson, though, leads the nation in tackles for loss. 17 of them. He's also third in sacks. Well, I think he has 9.5. He's just been a complete force off the edge for them, really stepping up in the absence of one of their top players being out for the year. Other than that, though, they've been really dominant as they are second in FBS in scoring offense at 45.9 points per game, headlined by Heisman hopeful Bryce Young. Jamison Williams, the transfer, has been huge for them. Brian Robinson having a big year is expected. This offensive line, fairly youthful unit. They're really making big strides week to week. So Alabama right now, they are number 2, even though the defense really has a lot of improvements left. Number 1, Georgia. The Bulldogs are unanimously the top-ranked team in the country. The Bulldogs sport the nation's top defense, allowing only 53 points through 8 games. That's pretty insane. Georgia beat Clemson in week 1. Clemson right now, you see them. That's really not a quality win at this moment in time, I don't think, with how the Tigers have played this year. They have ripped off 4 straight blowout wins over respectable conference opponents, 3 of them being ranked, the other one being Florida. You look what they have on the defensive line. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt. These guys are massive. These guys are nasty on the interior. 5 stars everywhere. Nakobe Dean, he's a phenomenal run stopper. And you see he had a pick 6 against Florida. Trayvon Walker. The secondary, I think, is a bit of a question mark when they play a team that can neutralize that O-line, or that D-line, that is. Because they've been doing all the nasty work. It's been hard for teams to stand back in the pocket with time and find people downfield. So how will the secondary play when they play a team like Alabama or Oregon that can kind of contest them in the trenches? Remains to be seen. We'll see it eventually. I think this defensive line is really good. Maybe he won't, though. Maybe they just can continue this train wreck over everybody. Stetson Bennett's the only big question mark. You've seen against Florida. Didn't have a good day. I mean, he had a pick where he just threw it up there. And it got picked off right before the half, but ended up being the best thing that happened all game for him because they were so good at the end of that half. They scored 21 points within the final 2.5 minutes. Georgia looked really good. From that point on, the game was kind of over. They did a phenomenal job closing that half. That interception ended up swinging momentum, even though it was a negative for Georgia. It turned into a positive that helped them steamroll through the Gators. So right now, Georgia, number 1 with no question.